I want to tell you what I think about an impending threat that will affect everyone watching this. Every year, the United Nations has a 2-week international conference to deal with climate change. They're called the COPs. I work for an independent news program and went to my first COP in 2011 in Durban, South Africa. That was COP 17. Next, I went to Doha in 2012, Warsaw, Poland in 2013, Paris in 2015, Marrakesh in 2016, Bonn, Germany in 2017, Katowice, Poland in 2018, and now Brazil in 2025. This year's COP was COP 30, the 30th annual meeting. People sometimes ask me, what was happening? Will we stop climate change? I find it very difficult to answer without sounding crazy, but this is what I think. The conference is massive, filled with hundreds of negotiators, observers, UN special rapporteurs, scientists, indigenous leaders, climate activists, journalists, politicians, technicians, and support staff. They come from around the world, and it feels like every kind of person is present. The diversity of participants cannot be overstated, but they almost all share a common trait, that they are very smart people at the top of their field. Simply put, the COP is a brilliant mob. These smart people use a lot of jargon, phrases like loss and damage, and words like adaptation and mitigation. If you want to, you can type those phrases into a search engine and the letters UNFCCC and read scientific briefs and look at charts until your eyes bleed. These people are smart, they can explain ways to transition to less harmful power sources, the state of negotiations, they can parse the updated language in the draft text, truly understand the nuances of what is happening there, and many of them want to communicate it to us. I'm not here to regurgitate the jargon, but what they tell us is this. Climate change is real and man-made. It is already fundamentally changing our shared world and will get increasingly violent and dangerous within our lifetimes, and it will cost a lot to adapt to what is already happening and change how our world operates to prevent an even greater decline, but we know how it could be done. Then they will explain to you that while the wealthiest nations are outsized contributors to the causes of climate change, the initial impact is overwhelmingly felt in the poorest parts of the world. For example, the United States is a massive polluter, but its government doesn't want to change how this economy is run to sufficiently curb the current and impending devastation. They're fundamentally uninterested in changing a system that currently makes a small number of people incredibly wealthy. I work amid a subset of these very smart people in media who spend a lot of time thinking about how to explain that science, those charts, this jargon, and the underlying dynamics. What you're watching isn't about that, though. When friends and family ask me about the COP, this isn't what I want to tell them. I don't want to explain science, I want to tell them about the powerlessness. I want to tell them that the entire process is a failure. There have been 30 years of these negotiations and meetings, and all these very smart people are failing, and they all know it. The politicians won't say they're failing. They look concerned and trot out canned lines about, it's a long process, and there are some advances, and
hope is the last thing that dies.
The rich will always grumble about regulations and interference, but they're still happy making a lot of money off oil and gas and plastics and all the rest. But if you listen to the scientists, journalists, climate activists, and most notably the indigenous leaders, those people from the poorest countries on the front line, they will all tell you that, yet again, the commitments came up short. Or, the commitments were better, but there's no enforcement mechanism for the commitments. Or, that it was great that some new language was included in the draft text about this or that, but it's just ornamental language in another draft that will be fundamentally insufficient for the impending disasters wrought by climate change.
The big story here is that not one element of adaptation package will be enough. It needs to be a comprehensive package, and otherwise we're just having words, beautiful words, but on paper.
There are many smart people lobbying at the COP, but not all of them are fighting climate change. COP stands for Conference of the Parties. Its mandate is to fulfill the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Some of those parties, many of them, are trying to resist changes to their profitable business models. In business school, they teach about the concept of regulatory capture. Sorry, I guess I have to introduce some jargon. Regulatory capture and greenwashing. What is regulatory capture? A bank needs lawyers to deal with government oversight of their banking. A clever move, if you're a bank, is to hire lawyers who were previously bank regulators. They bring a lot of expertise to the table, they wielded and sometimes even wrote the rules. And when they sit at the table to negotiate with bank regulators, their old coworkers, they already have a relationship. Now imagine you're a bank regulator. You're sitting across the table from your old colleague. You're already friendly, but you see his nice suit, his expensive watch. You might even get friendlier, so as not to hamper future job prospects. Those regulations, a little looser. This scenario illustrates a concept known as regulatory capture, and at COP, the oil and coal companies have applied this concept to fight climate regulation and block progress. The COP is not just filled with lobbyists from the polluters. The government delegations themselves negotiating how to respond to climate change are also filled with polluters. This is Nina Lakhani, a Guardian reporter, explaining industry infiltration into the COP process, speaking to the show I work for.
In the last 4 years, more than 5,350 lobbyists representing fossil fuel companies, trade associations and other organisations representing oil, gas and coal have been given access to the climate talks. This far outnumbers the negotiators and the delegations that are present from most countries. Also excludes all of the lobbyists sent to represent other big polluting or industries that benefit from fossil fuel extraction, like big agriculture, like mining, big tech, finance, and also excludes the fossil fuel lobbyists or the executives who are on official delegations. Executives from some of the biggest corporations. So they are there in these secret country-to-country, state-to-state level negotiations, making climate policy. So these companies have long said, and the UNFCCC has agreed, that they need a seat at the table, that they're part of the solution, they're there with technology, they want to make a transition. Just 90 of the oil, gas and coal companies that sent lobbyists in the last 4 years are responsible for almost 60% of the oil and gas that was drilled last year, and responsible for almost 2/3 of the short-term oil and gas expansion projects that are about to start extracting and exploration. If they all go ahead, they will drill the equivalent of enough oil to coat the landmass of 7 European countries entirely, including France, Germany and Denmark. So, these companies are sending lobbyists in order to block climate action. This is climate obstruction at work. They're there to delay meaningful climate action, which every country in the world is obliged to do under international law. And they're there to promote false solutions like carbon markets, carbon capture and storage, these market-based solutions which are not going to save the planet.
The parties and process that are supposed to be solving the crisis have been captured by those causing it. The other term is greenwashing. We've all seen examples of greenwashing. It's simply a marketing strategy, a fresh new paint job on a crappy car belching smoke, ads with a lot of green ink selling products with a prefix eco, emphasizing recycled materials, and businesses lauding themselves as trustworthy friends of the environment. COP is the ne plus ultra of greenwashing. It is marketed as a system to resolve a crisis, but behind the scenes, it is largely infiltrated by actors both profiting off the crisis's causes and devising new ways to make money off of mechanisms claiming to solve the problems without threatening existing profits. The COP may be wallpapered in green posters, pictures of icebergs and animals, but for many inside, their goal is preserving and building profit. Sorry to be redundant, but it's important to get this. The COP is a byproduct of an earlier time. Liberal institutions built around a specific system that promotes contract law and property rights as the highest good. This system emerged hundreds of years ago as an economic order developed that rivaled the kingdoms that had initially fostered it. Multiple ideas and institutions were born as it built its power and defined a world around it. Courts, rule of law, international treaties, the scientific method, democracy, journalism, universal education. There's a lot that is great in these ideas and institutions, but they emerged to build a power centered around supporting private property rights protected by contract law. This system cannot resolve the crises we face. Contract law and property rights were insufficient to stop the U.S. invasion of Iraq or the genocide in Gaza. Today, the system is mistrusted and in tatters. The same economic order that constructed the United Nations and international treaties is now fighting tooth and nail to prevent an encroachment on its power, even if its power is destroying the one planet we share. These smart people return every year. They debate and discuss. These smart people are failing because the system is a failed system. This year, before we went into the COP, we went to a massive demonstration on the streets of Berlin and heard voices from people who had come from all over the world. They said things like this.
Our movements have the real answer. We know that the COP30 is not bringing real solutions, but the people's movements do. Right now, the movements are demanding and advancing real solutions.
They told us.
We are here to demand stop the false solution of climate change. We are here to demand stop destroying the forest that we protected. Stop destroying the biodiversity that we are protecting. Stop killing us. The important thing is recognition of the rights of indigenous peoples. We also need everybody to join this because the answer is not only indigenous peoples, but all of us, all of you, the citizens of the planet. We do our part, you have to do your part as well, because the answer is all of us. The answer is us, indigenous peoples, and you, the citizens of the world.
They said,
Estamos en Belén de Pará, en la cumbre de los pueblos, en el marco de la COP30, para tres cosas fundamentales. Denunciar toda la negociación capitalista sobre el hecho climático, la crisis climática, y que nunca llegan a cumplir ningunos acuerdos para control de emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero ni sumideros de carbono, sino puro negocio capitalista sin resultado. Segundo, que hay que insistir en la mitigación y, cómo no, también en la adaptación, pero también es necesario justicia climática y eso implica la compensación de los daños que han sido causados por la crisis climática causada por el capitalismo y el imperialismo global. Por otro lado, llamamos la propuesta de la Ley de los Derechos de la Madre Tierra como un mecanismo ético y jurídico obligatorio para todos los pueblos, que sea incluso acogida por Naciones Unidas, unos principios para protección del planeta y que tengan carácter legal en todos los países del mundo. Y por supuesto la solidaridad hacia el pueblo de Venezuela, que está siendo amenazado con el uso de la fuerza, pero que lo único que quiere no es libertad, no es democracia, no es ayuda humanitaria, sino saquear los recursos, no solo de Venezuela. Ellos quieren entrar a la Amazonia por Venezuela, pero vienen contra toda Latinoamérica.
It is not enough to speak truth to power. It is not enough to promote indigenous voices. It is not enough to point out that the world is in a terrible place. It is not enough to vote or send money to politicians. It is not enough to recycle or buy eco products or use renewable energy. Alone, these are false solutions. We know the answers. Think about this. The smartest people know what we need to do. This isn't a failure of science. There are solutions to deal with the impending threat that will affect everyone watching this and all successive generations. But there is a power exerting itself to stop the solutions, and unless that power is forcibly broken apart, climate change will come for us all. This is a problem of politics. Unless we change the relations of power quickly, the actual world we live in will be trapped in a death spiral. The answer is not inside the COP. It cannot be answered in contract law and property rights. The answer is in us together. If we organize and fight, by any means necessary, to change the power relations of a world where a small number of very rich, momentarily powerful people can block what can save us, this is our only chance. That's what I think.